To the deep dive. We're your shortcut to getting truly well informed without you having to dig through tons of research yourself. Today, we're plunging into a really critical health topic, one that affects millions, and honestly, it's way more complex, more fascinating than we used to think. I'm talking about the connection between obesity and insulin resistance. Now, we've known for ages these two are linked, right? Insulin resistance, that key step towards type 2 diabetes. But what if the latest science has just completely turned our understanding on its head, revealed, astonishing new insights? That's our mission today, to unpack those groundbreaking discoveries, giving you the clearest picture of this really intricate relationship.
That's absolutely right. It's really moved beyond just weight and calories. The latest research, it's like peeling back layers of an onion. It shows us the link isn't simple cause and effect. It's a profound multisystemic disorder, not just energy balance, but this sophisticated interplay of biological processes all across the body. And the really exciting part, these discoveries aren't just academic. They are actively paving the way for genuinely new treatments, real hope.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because to really get these new insights, these, game changers, we need to be crystal clear on insulin resistance itself first. So imagine insulin is like a key, and your body cells like muscle, fat, liver, they're like little houses with locked doors. Insulin's job, unlock those doors, let glucose, that's the sugar from your food, get inside to be used for energy. Simple enough, right? But with insulin resistance, it's like the locks get rusty or maybe the key doesn't quite fit anymore. The cells, they just become less responsive, kind of deaf to insulin. Now with obesity, having too much fat tissue or adipose tissue really throws a wrench in the works. It starts this whole cascade that disrupts the system.
Exactly. And this cellular deafness to insulin, that's precisely what causes blood sugar levels to go up. I mean, think about it. If the glucose can't get into the cells for energy, where does it go? It just keeps circulating in your blood. So your pancreas, it tries to compensate. It works overtime, pumping out more and more insulin, like trying to force the locks open with, a giant key ring. But if the cells still aren't responding well, that glucose just keeps building up. And that sets the stage for all sorts of problems, especially type 2 diabetes. It's this vicious cycle we only superficially understood until pretty recently.
Okay, so that's the basic picture we had. But here's where the research took this, completely unexpected turn. For decades, we just thought fat tissue was, passive, like a storage closet for extra energy. But imagine finding out that closet is actually like a buzzing factory sending out distress signals. That's the huge shift with chronic low-grade inflammation. It's now seen as one of the biggest discoveries here. In obesity, fat tissue isn't just storage. It becomes an active endocrine organ, a communication hub, churning out inflammatory signals. It's not just a side effect. It's an active instigator.
Right. And what's really fascinating is how the immune system gets drawn in. When those fat cells, adipocytes we call them, get overloaded, they literally send out these distress signals, like an SOS. These signals attract immune cells, specifically macrophages, right into the fat tissue. And here's the crucial part. They don't just hang out, they change. They shift from a helpful pro-resolving M2 state, which normally cleans things up, into a harmful pro-inflammatory M1 state.
Wow. So our own fat tissue is basically recruiting immune cells and turning them against us, making them interfere with insulin.
That's exactly what happens. Once they're in that M1 state, the trouble really kicks off. These M1 macrophages, and the fat cells themselves too, start releasing this cocktail of inflammatory molecules.
Cytokines,
right, like TNF-alpha and IL-6. I've heard of those.
Precisely those. Tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNFO, and interleukin-6, IL-6. And they aren't passive bystanders, they're active saboteurs.
Yeah.
These inflammatory signals, they directly mess with the insulin signaling pathway inside the cells. They essentially block key proteins. A really important one is insulin receptor substrate 1, IRS1.
IRS1, okay. So that's like the internal switch that gets the message from insulin. Exactly. It receives the signal to take up sugar, and these inflammatory molecules, they basically gum up that switch, jam it. So the cell's machinery just can't respond properly to the insulin message, even if it's there. And the result, less glucose uptake, which means, blood sugar stays high. So chronic low-grade inflammation. It's not just happening alongside obesity, it's actively driving the insulin resistance, a silent instigator.
Okay, so inflammation turns our fat against us. But what happens when there's just too much fat? When the storage depots are full, where does it go then? That leads us to the next big insight, lipotoxicity. Another layer of damage. Think of your fat tissue like a sponge. When it's totally soaked, the extra water, or in this case fatty acids, has to spill over somewhere, and that somewhere is other organs. Organs not really built for storing lots of fat, like your liver, your muscles, even your pancreas, the very place insulin is made. And this spillover, it's not harmless. It's now understood to be a major direct cause of insulin resistance.
Right. And what happens inside those organs that get this fat spillover? It's serious cellular distress. This buildup of fat derivatives, it causes huge stress, especially in a part of the cell called the endoplasmic reticulum, the ER. The ER is like the cell's protein folding factory, making sure all the parts are shaped correctly.
Like the assembly line, yeah.
Exactly. When it gets overwhelmed by these extra fat products, it experiences ER stress, like a system overload. And this stress, it triggers an emergency response in the cell that actually shuts down its ability to respond properly to insulin. So even if insulin is knocking on the door, the cell's internal machinery is too stressed out to answer.
Wow. Okay, so the ER gets stressed. Does it stop there? Or does this fat overflow start messing up other core parts of the cell?
Yeah.
Like its energy production?
Yeah.
Because new research seems to highlight mitochondria too, right? The cell's powerhouses.
Yes, absolutely critical. This lipotoxicity severely impairs mitochondrial function, which means the cell gets much worse at burning fat for energy. So more fat builds up. Vicious cycle again. And worse still, this dysfunction leads to the production of damaging reactive oxygen species, ROS, free radicals.
Right, free radicals, nasty stuff.
Very nasty. They worsen the inflammation we already talked about, and they worsen insulin resistance directly. And within this whole lipotoxicity picture, there's a specific type of fat molecule getting a lot of attention.
Ceramides.
Ceramides.
Yeah.
Think of them as a specific toxic byproduct of this fat overload. Studies show higher levels of ceramides directly because of lipotoxicity are really potent inhibitors of insulin signaling. They act almost like a direct off switch for sugar uptake. So it's not just any fat, but specific kinds of fat molecules doing serious damage when they end up in the wrong place.
It's just incredible. The layers here. Inflammation, cellular stress from fat spillover. But what about something sort of outside, yet deeply connected? Our gut. How does the gut microbiome, those trillions of bacteria in our digestive tract fit into this picture of obesity and insulin resistance? This area feels like it's exploding with research right now. It seems to have this profound influence. And it's clear now, isn't it, that the makeup of this internal ecosystem is really different in obesity. And those changes are directly involved.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, and it really does complete this picture of complexity. What we often see in obesity is a condition called dysbiosis, basically an unhealthy balance of gut microbes. Often there's less diversity, and you get an overgrowth of certain bacteria that actually produce pro-inflammatory molecules.
So like weeds taking over a garden, producing stuff that causes inflammation elsewhere?
That's a good analogy. And this unhealthy, unbalanced microbiome can also lead to what people call leaky gut.
Ah, yes, I've heard that term.
It means the intestinal barrier, that protective lining, becomes more permeable, less tight. And when it's leaky, bacterial components, a key one is lipopolysaccharide, or LPS, can actually escape the gut and get into the bloodstream.
Whoa, so bits of bacteria leaking into the body. That sounds bad.
It is. When LPS gets into the bloodstream, it triggers a systemic inflammatory response, body-wide inflammation, which, you guessed it, further contributes to insulin resistance, echoing what we saw with the fat tissue inflammation. And beyond that, this is really fascinating. The gut microbes produce tons of metabolites, small molecules from their own activity. These metabolites directly influence our metabolism. For instance, in obesity, we often see fewer beneficial short-chain fatty acids, like butyrate.
Butyrate.
Yeah.
That's good for gut health, right?
Crucial. It fuels gut cells and is linked to better insulin sensitivity. But people with obesity often have less. And conversely, they might have more of other things like branched-chain amino acids, BCAAs, and high levels of those are consistently linked to impaired insulin sensitivity. So yeah, the gut isn't just for digestion, it's a massive metabolic control center.
Okay, it's a lot. Inflammation, lipotoxicity, the gut microbiome. That's an incredibly complex web. So the million-dollar question then, how does knowing all this deeper understanding, actually help? How does it open up new ways to treat or prevent this? Because understanding is one thing, but finding targeted solutions, that's the goal, right? What are the really exciting therapies emerging from these insights, especially maybe on the pharma side?
That's exactly where the hope lies. This comprehensive view is revolutionizing treatments. We're seeing several key strategies emerging. First, anti-inflammatory therapies, directly targeting those specific inflammatory pathways, the cytokines, the M1 macrophages, to improve insulin sensitivity. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, tackling the inflammation head on.
Second, targeting lipotoxicity, developing ways to reduce those toxic fats like ceramides, where they shouldn't be in the liver, muscle, pancreas.
Getting the fat out of the wrong places.
Precisely. And third, microbiome modulation. This is a huge area, using things like prebiotics food for good bacteria or probiotics, the good bacteria themselves, even exploring things like fecal microbiota transplantation, believe it or not, all aimed at restoring a healthy gut balance to improve insulin sensitivity. It's a really holistic view.
And thinking about the gut, we have seen some huge breakthroughs recently in pharmaceuticals that tie into that, haven't we? Those incretin-based therapies everyone's talking about, GLP-1 agonists, the dual GLP-1, GIP-1s, they seem like game changers.
They really are a prime example of leveraging this deeper biological understanding. These drugs mimic natural gut hormones, incretins, that our bodies release when we eat. And by tapping into that system, they've shown remarkable results, not just significant weight loss, but also direct improvements in insulin sensitivity. It's powerful proof that understanding these complex pathways leads to truly effective treatments.
So it really feels like the scientific community's whole view of obesity and insulin resistance has shifted massively. It's so much more than just calories in, calories out.
Absolutely. Far beyond that simple equation.
What we've talked about today paints this picture. I mean, it's complex, yes, but ultimately I think it's more hopeful. It's a multi-system issue. Chronic low-grade inflammation, cells stressed out by fat spillover, a gut microbiome sending disruptive signals.
Exactly, a complex, interconnected disorder. But these new insights, they're not just interesting facts. They are actively showing us the way to more targeted, more effective therapies. To really combat these intertwined epidemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes, it's a genuinely promising time.
So as you think about everything we've dived into today, just consider that incredible interconnectedness. Our fat cells acting like endocrine organs, recruiting immune cells. Our gut bacteria shaping our metabolism. Toxic fats messing up cellular machines. It's all playing a role in our fundamental metabolic health. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other parts of our health, things that seem totally separate right now, might actually be linked in these deeply intricate ways that we're only just starting to figure out.